My husband is dying and he has no idea that I'm pregnant. I'm 39 years old with 2 teenage kids, and I've been married to a man named Mark who is 40. Sorry if this whole thing sounds messy, but the truth is it really is a complicated story. Our marriage was never about love at first sight. It was more like a marriage of convenience. Both of us had been divorced, and we had actually been friends for decades before this. Earlier this spring, Mark found out he has a rare kind of cancer, and the doctors gave him about 6 months to live. 3 years ago, he discovered that he had a daughter from a fling he had when he was younger, long before we ever married. When he finally tracked her down, she was 10 years old at the time. I'll call her Sarah, and she had been through some horrible abuse from her mother, who apparently had some kind of mental breakdown. Mark fought for an entire year to get custody of a child he hadn't seen since she was a baby, and eventually he won that battle. Then for almost 2 more years, he put his whole heart into building a bond with Sarah, helping her heal and learn how to trust him again. And then, just as she was starting to settle into a new life, he's suddenly dying. That's really the main reason why we got married in the first place. It was mostly for Sarah's sake. We were told it would be legally easier if I was his wife, so that after his death, custody would pass directly to me without any fight if her mother ever tried to take her back. And yes, I 100% want custody of Sarah. No hesitation at all. I love that girl deeply. She feels like part of our family already, almost like a sister to my kids since they're close in age. She has come such a long way. I remember when she didn't even own a proper pair of shoes, and now she's bright, funny, and honestly an amazing young girl. We didn't have a wedding, we just signed the papers, and then Mark and Sarah moved into my house. All the kids understood what was happening and, surprisingly, they handled it with a calm acceptance that still amazes me. Somewhere in the middle of all this, things changed between me and Mark. He told me he had secretly been in love with me for years, and I let myself feel the same even though I wasn't completely certain about my own emotions. It all happened fast, maybe too fast, and maybe I was wrong to let it happen, but I wanted him to have happiness in the time he has left. I really do care about him. Over the past few weeks, Mark has started to go downhill quickly. He barely leaves the house except for short hospital stays, and every day now the nurses come in to check on him. He's on such heavy painkillers that some days he's present and aware, but other times he's barely there at all. I'm watching him fade right in front of me, and it's heartbreaking. And then this week I found out I'm pregnant. I don't even know if I want to keep the baby. I feel too old for this. I already have 3 teenagers to raise and care for, and the thought of another baby right now feels impossible. I've been seriously thinking about never telling Mark about this pregnancy, but that feels wrong, and telling him feels wrong too. What hurts him most isn't the fact that he's dying, it's that he's leaving Sarah behind, and if he found out he was also leaving another baby, it would crush him even more. Ending the pregnancy feels wrong, but keeping the baby feels wrong too. Everything about this situation just feels wrong. Sometimes I just want a cigarette and a bottle of wine to shut my brain off. It's hard to explain what exactly Mark and I are to each other, but I'll try to lay it out for myself at least. We were friends for so many years. I got married way too young, which turned out to be a huge mistake, and by the time I got divorced, Mark was already married. By the time he got divorced, his youngest kid had serious health problems, and after that Sarah became the center of his whole life. Somewhere in all that chaos, we were working full-time jobs, burying 3 parents between us, dealing with drunk late-night calls from or to our exes, and in my case, sometimes answering calls from my ex while he was locked up in jail. It always came down to time, and there was never enough of it. But this past year, as 2 single parents side by side, we turned into a pretty solid team. Mark was the one who taught my oldest how to drive, and I'll never forget when he called me at work in a panic because his daughter had just gotten her first period. It was honestly hilarious. We always had each other's backs, no matter what, and somewhere along the way I started falling for him. It felt inevitable, like it was the natural next step, like it was finally the right time for us. Except it wasn't, because then everything suddenly sped up and shrank, like someone hit fast forward on our lives, or like the writers of a TV show were rushing to wrap up the season so they could go work on Star Wars. So yes, I do love Mark, But these last months have felt strange, almost artificial, and what I find myself grieving the most are not the memories we actually had, but the relationship we should have had, the one we were supposed to have, damn it. So maybe the only point here is to go hug your loved ones while you can because time runs out faster than you think. I've written way more than I planned to, and now I'm sitting here crying again. God, it's disgusting. Update 1. I'm almost sure now that I'm going to keep this baby and tell Mark, but I want to sleep on it first before locking it in. Mark has already gone down for the night, so there's no point bringing it up right now. Thanks for listening. I'm gonna wash the dishes, feed the cat, and then crawl into bed. I'll read and reply to comments whenever I get the chance, and I'll try to post an update by the weekend. Edited to add this morning, I went to the gynecologist, and here's the twist. I'm not just 1 month along, I'm already over 3 months pregnant. No, that doesn't make me feel any better. It actually makes me furious, like once again my choices got taken from me. I'm tired of feeling like my life is a train barreling ahead at full speed with me having zero control over it. I'm exhausted with the way people romanticize everything. I'm sick of being told I'm strong when all I'm really doing is the bare minimum to keep my head above water. So yeah, I'm just gonna sit here and be angry for a while, and that's okay. Thanks for letting me vent. Here's the conversation I had with my doctor less than half an hour ago, retold in my own words. Me asking if my old IUD could hurt the baby. Doctor saying nope, I removed that thing 5 years ago when it expired. Me not remembering that at all and asking if he's sure it was me. Doctor reminding me that I was the one who said I didn't need it anymore because I was done with men and planning to run off to some lesbian commune. And honestly, that does sound like something I would have said back then. In my defense, 5 years ago my youngest had just gone through spinal surgery to remove a tumor, and their dad showed up at the hospital with a girlfriend barely out of college. So yeah, it makes sense that parts of my memory from that period are a total blur. Update 2. Turns out I'm not 4 weeks pregnant, I'm closer to 15, and it's a girl. She will be loved, and she will be a wanted part of this family. I'm going to tell Mark. You're welcome to keep leaving comments, I like responding to them, but my decision is made. Edited again because I got about 5 messages telling me it's impossible to know the gender this early. Well, go argue with the ultrasound tech who was pretty confident when she told me. Anyway, let me just spill my thoughts here. Sorry if this comes out messy. Last night when I wrote my post I was mostly sad and scared, but then so many people twisted everything into some kind of romance. The funny part is last night I went to bed convinced I was keeping the baby and everything was going to turn out magical and beautiful blah blah blah, and then this morning I woke up half crazy, half dazed, and then found out the pregnancy is way further along than I thought, and that reality knocked the air right out of me. I'm angry because deep down it feels like I never actually had a choice, and I'm angry because people act like it's romantic that I'm carrying the child of a dying man. I was already worked up when I came home ready to talk to Mark, but then I couldn't because Sarah skipped school again. I get it, she wants to spend as much time with her dad as possible, but I had already made a deal with her that if she went all this week, then next week she could take some days off. I even smoothed things over with her teacher, so I thought we had it settled. Instead, she and Mark sat down and started watching season 3 of Stranger Things, and all I could think was I just want to scream at him. What the hell are you doing starting a brand new show when you don't even know if you'll live long enough to finish a sandwich? But of course I can't say that, because apparently it's not okay to yell at dying people or to remind them that they're dying, even when every part of me is begging to yell stop dying already. Meanwhile, he's doped up on pain meds rambling that he used to be a fighter, and Sarah is only 11, so of course she believes him. No, you weren't, Mark. You sat behind a desk for 10 years and got overweight. You never punched anybody in your whole life. I'm so sick of the way people cover up the truth, like life is 90% annoying maintenance of these smelly meat sacks we live in and endless paperwork, and maybe 10% actual meaningful stuff. And when the meaningful moments do show up, you're never really ready for them, not the good or the bad, because you're exhausted, you're distracted by bills, and you can only give half your attention at best. Later on you'll tell yourself, oh, that was the most romantic night of my life, but honestly, in the moment you were mostly just thinking about how to peel off a pair of tights that made your legs itch like crazy and wondering if anyone remembered to feed the cat. Anyway, I'm gonna go grab some groceries. Thanks for coming to my little TED Talk. One of the comments that stuck with me said something like this: if you're going to have this baby, and it really doesn't seem like you've got much of a choice anymore, you're going to be fine. You'll be a great mom to all 4 kids. There will be good days and bad days, but in the end, all 4 of them will grow up into decent people, and honestly, that's what really matters. They wished me luck and said they were sorry I had to go through all this. They told me that if I decided to keep the baby, I should tell Mark soon so he can record videos, write letters, or do anything else that our child could hold on to later. They said it would mean the world to grow up knowing that even if my dad had died before I was born, he loved me enough to leave behind pieces of himself just for me. And the truth is, yes, I'm keeping her, of course I am, and I'm going to tell him. We'll make videos and do all that stuff, even if it feels silly at times. I keep thinking about that movie where the mom tried to write birthday cards for her twins all the way into their adulthood before she died, but she couldn't finish because it was too painful to imagine missing everything. That thought hit me hard and made me cry all over again. It's going to be tough on both of us, but our little girl deserves that connection with her father, whether it's through videos, letters, or anything we can come up with. Otherwise, all she'll have are photos and my memories of him, and if she has his own words, she'll feel like he's still part of her life in some way. So how did it go when I finally told him? I curled up next to him, showed him the ultrasound picture, and said something like, "This is our baby girl." He sat in silence for a minute, then he said, "She's going to have a sister." It wasn't the reaction I was expecting, but I agreed, "Yes, Sarah will have a sister." Then he asked if I thought I could handle it all, and I told him I would. We lay there together in silence for a long time, and that was pretty much it. Today he's quiet, but sometimes he gets like that. It's just part of where he's at now. I still need to talk to the other kids and ask him about making videos or letters or birthday cards, but I want to give him some space to process it all first. Tomorrow is my last day at work, and then everything changes. Before I step away for unpaid family leave, we'll have some more time in the coming days or weeks to talk things through as a family. Final update. I don't know if anyone will even stumble onto this post anymore, but for whoever finds it down the road, Mark passed away a few days ago. We're doing okay, we really are. I'm holding it together. The paperwork is brutal, it feels endless, but at least I finally caught up on the laundry. And to everyone who read my comment about Mark and Sarah binging season 3 of Stranger Things without me and not warning me about the ending, just know there's a special place in hell's waiting room for you, because that was traumatic as hell. Life's got a wicked sense of irony, doesn't it? So yeah, that's where I'm at, moving on to the next chapter of this story. But before I close this out, I'll throw the question back at you. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have kept the baby or not? And if you did keep her, would you have told your dying husband about her or kept it to yourself?